Welcome to episode 528 of the podcast. Today, we're going to look at demand generation. That's another form for customer acquisition, how we go about looking for people to be our customers or the users of our website or whatever it is that we want to do. Now, the most of the ideas that we've discussed on the podcast in the past have been around the idea of prospecting or canvassing, and that's the old school way of when you hit the streets and you're looking for people physically to have a conversation to, whether because you're talking to random strangers in the market square or going to people's offices or whatever. But demand generation, on the other hand, is built around creating awareness and creating interest for your product or service, and that is done mostly online nowadays. Now, because you do a lot of demand generation by sitting behind a keyboard, because remember, like I said, it's about mostly creating content and producing, promoting your content, and that is done largely by sitting behind on a keyboard, your computer, your laptop, your phone, or whatever it is. So, because of that, a lot of people think that it's a lot easier than canvassing. And is that necessarily the case? That's something we're going to explore in the next couple of days. I would like to argue that it depends on what your cup of tea is, because canvassing has its own hassles. You need a lot of motivation because you're going to be rejected face to face. You're going to need fuel for driving back and from meetings. You're going to be slapping around meeting people. It's not the most comfortable thing to do. But I'm going to argue in the next coming days, in the future podcast episodes, that canvassing has its own hassles as well. Content production is not as easy as most people like to think. Content promotion also comes with its own hassles. So, the next couple of podcast episodes are going to be geared exclusively to that. But for now, especially for those of you who are listening to the podcast now that were part of the Evolve Africa business incubation session, remember that this is supposed to be part of our recap videos where we not only recap things that we spoke about in the business incubation session, but also we go into more detail so that we can explore the things that we spoke about isolated, giving them their own time and go into much more detail. So the next series of videos are going to be on this whole thing of demand generation and examining it versus prospecting or canvassing, going to talk to people one on one so that we can see which is easier. But for now, the main takeaway is it might not necessarily be the case that because you like sitting behind the keyboard, that's going to be a lot easier than talking to people in the flesh. So thanks again for listening to episode 528 of the podcast. Remember that you guys can ask me anything by sending me voice messages or text messages on WhatsApp and Telegram. The number is 080 6466 2140. Again, the number 080 6466 2140. The country code for Nigeria is +234. Again, the country code is +234. Thanks for your time and attention. I'll catch you guys at the next episode.